The first fairy horn of the summer reached me through the open cafe window. The sound rolled across the harbor, deep and steady, and for a moment I stopped wiping the glass just to listen. The sea was calm enough that I could see the ferry pushing through a pale line of foam, its shape growing larger as it approached the pier. When the ferry comes in, the whole island feels awake again. The air changes. It carries the smell of salt and new stories. Cats stretch on the seawall, and the boats creak against their ropes, as if they're greeting someone they know. I live on Mizuhama Island. It isn't large. One school, a few shrines, and a coast that changes color every hour. My family runs a small place called the Tide Glass Cafe. We open before sunrise because fishermen like their first cup of coffee before the nets are dry. My mother says, if you're awake, you might as well be useful. I try to live by that rule, though sometimes being still feels useful too. That morning, the cafe smelled like coffee grounds and lemons. I was wiping the last table when the bell over the door rang. I looked up and saw a boy duck through the doorway, a duffel bag on his shoulder. His hair was longer than I remembered, his skin a little pale, like someone who hadn't seen the sea in years. "Welcome," I said out of habit, then stopped. "Ren?" He looked at me for a second before his face broke into a surprised smile. "Ray?" It had been 5 years since the last time I saw him, back when he used to visit his uncle for the summer. He'd been quiet then, smaller, always running from one end of the pier to the other, with sandals that slapped against the boards. Now he looked older, but his eyes were the same gray-blue I remembered from the tide pools. "I didn't think you'd recognize me," he said. "People don't change that much," I said. "They just stand differently." He laughed softly. "You look exactly the same. Everyone says that," I told him. "It's island law." He set his bag by the counter and leaned on it like he was testing if the floor would hold him. "I'm back for the summer. Uncle Satoru needed help with the boats." "You'll smell like fish all season," I said. "That's your warning." "I'll take it." I poured him a glass of iced lemonade and slid it across the counter. He didn't ask for it. "Here, newcomers get lemonade first. It's how we welcome them." He took a sip and relaxed a little. "Still good," he said. "Of course it is." Outside, the sunlight bounced off the water. The harbor shimmered like it had been polished overnight. Ren followed my gaze and smiled. "The place feels smaller," he said. "That's what happens when you grow," I said. "The island doesn't shrink. You just see more of it." He nodded slowly. "That sounds like something you'd say." "It's the same thing I would have said 5 years ago," I told him. "Some habits don't leave." He finished the drink and set the glass down carefully. "Thanks, I'll see you around." "You will," I said. "West Cove tomorrow morning, 7. Bring a towel. We'll see if you still swim like a rock." His smile widened. "Deal." When he left, the cafe felt different. Quieter, but not in a bad way. The sound of the sea filled the space he'd left, and I realized I'd been waiting for something new without knowing it. The afternoon passed in its usual rhythm. Fishermen came for their coffee, children came for melon soda, and the old man from the bookstore came for cake and conversation. The sunlight turned gold on the counter. By the time we closed, my hands smelled like lemon and soap, and the cicadas outside were singing like they'd just discovered sound. Grandmother Aya stopped by on her evening walk. She's small and bright-eyed, the kind of old woman who makes you believe the island listens to her. "He's back," she said before I could even say hello. "Who?" She raised an eyebrow. "You know who. That boy who used to chase you with buckets of crabs." "Ren," I admitted. Aya smiled. "The sea always brings people back when there's something they forgot to say. I thought it just brings them back when the ferry's on time." "That too," she said, and laughed. "But the tide doesn't waste energy on accidents." She sat for a while and told me one of her stories. Every time she tells it, the details change a little, but the heart of it stays the same. There's a legend that the sea here keeps the small tides safe, the gentle ones, not the storms. It remembers the wishes people make when they stand at the edge of the water and actually mean them. Aya says that's why our festival sends lanterns out to sea every year, to thank it for remembering us. When she left, the sky was deep blue and the first stars were out. I cleaned the last cup, locked the door, and walked home through the quiet streets. My mother was already asleep. I sat by the window with my notebook and wrote one sentence. He's back, and the island feels awake. The next morning, the cove was pale and still. I was there early, as always, when the world was quiet enough to hear my own heartbeat. The sand was cool, the waves small and even. I waded in until the water touched my knees, then dove forward. The salt stung my skin in a way that made me feel alive. When I came up for air, Ren was standing on the path that led down to the shore, shoes in hand. He waved, awkward but sincere. "You came?" I said. I said I would. "That doesn't always mean much," I teased. He grinned. "Guess I'm an exception." We started with the basics. "Breathe with the sea, not against it," I said. "If you fight, you'll lose. If you listen, it'll hold you up." He tried. He tensed, swallowed water, laughed, and tried again. By the third attempt, he could float for a few seconds without panicking. "I'm not drowning," he said proudly. "That's the goal," I said. "You're doing fine." We stayed until the sun was bright enough to turn the sand hot underfoot. Then we sat in the shade and shared the rice balls I'd packed. The sea whispered in the background, steady and endless. He looked out toward the horizon. "I forgot how quiet it is here," he said. "It's not quiet," I said. "You just stopped hearing this kind of noise." He smiled, thoughtful. "Maybe that's why I came back." I watched the way the sunlight caught his hair. "Why did you?" "The city felt too loud even when it wasn't," he said. "I wanted a place where I could think without fighting for space to breathe." "That's a good reason," I said. "The island's good at helping people remember who they are." He turned his head toward me. "And you? Why do you stay?" I shrugged. "Because I don't know what it would feel like to leave." He nodded slowly. "That's reason enough." We ate the rest of lunch in silence, but it wasn't an empty silence. It was the kind that lets you feel the wind on your skin and the warmth of someone sitting beside you. That evening, he came by the cafe. I was wiping the counter again, though it didn't need it. He took the seat nearest the window. "You're not busy?" he asked. "Not anymore," I said. "The fishermen went home. The cats are my only customers now." He smiled. "Mind if I keep them company?" "Go ahead. They don't tip." We talked about small things. The flavor of the lemonade, the old vending machine that ate coins and sometimes returned them, how Aya always seemed to appear where she was needed most. It felt easy, the way talking should when you stop worrying about what comes next. When he left that night, the street was quiet, and I stood by the door long after the bell had stopped ringing. I wrote in my notebook, "He's learning to float. Maybe I am too."